It's so funny. I had two. So you didn't just name the first one, the broke one. We all gotta be broke. I mean, we all gotta be broke. Like
Yes.
ramen noodles, cup
Mhm.
noodles, broke.
It has to hurt.
Like, you know how people love avocado toast now? I'm like, I was eating avocado toast
For survival. You're over here trying to be healthy.
with a fried egg on top, okay?
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Black Student Success Podcast brought to you by InQuire Hire. Today, joining us is Tomilola Akinfe. How are you doing, Tomi?
I'm well. Thank you for having me. I'm very honored to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. I love your story. We go way back.
Way
first,
back.
Yes, way back. But first, let's go over who you are. How do you describe yourself? This is your moment to boast. Go for it.
Okay. I wrote some notes because I'm like, who am I? So we're going to go through some adjectives and then we're kind of end with something that I hope kind of sums it up pretty well. But who am I? I am a Black immigrant woman. I like to believe that I am assertive. I'm someone who is genuine. I am fun-loving. I am a compassionate person. And I feel like a lot of that has led me to becoming a nurse. So I'm also a nurse, even though what I do now may not necessarily be intuitive that I am a nurse, but I still use my nursing background in my day-to-day job. And I am outspoken, which can be a good and a bad thing. We'll just say that much. Sometimes you got to pipe down, but I am an outspoken person. I'm an advocate. And then I am also imperfect. You know, I am somebody who has made mistakes. I am making mistakes, but the key is to be reflective and to learn and to grow. And then also I am evolving. I am constantly evolving to better align with my purpose, which in all transparency, I'm still figuring out. But I believe in a nutshell, that's who I am.
That's amazing. I love how you said that you were imperfect. Obviously, I love everything else that you said about yourself, but the fact that you said that you're imperfect and you're evolving, I love that you owned up to that and you're not afraid to show it. So, hey, claim it. We're all imperfect.
Listen, we're all imperfect, but the key is to learn and to grow.
Yes, and to evolve as she's doing. So let's take it back, Toby. Oh my gosh, I know you all the way back from. I had to go over this with my husband. I'm like, I went to grammar school with her, then we went to high school, and we went to college together. But before all of that, didn't we go to like summer school together at the Boys and Girls Club?
Yep. Northside kids.
Oh my goodness.
Northside kids, on the northeast side where all like the African and the Asian immigrants lived. in the mid to late 1990s, going into the early 2000s.
No, we're not aging ourselves. No, we don't do that here. We're young.
Like 1996, 1997, you know. For some of y'all maybe weren't be born yet, but it's okay. But yeah, we have known each other. I was telling my partner that too. Like, I've known you for a long time.
Long time, man.
More than half my life.
That's insane. And here we are.
You know, we have gone through so much in life. We have, you know, we've grown up. We've, you know, started families. We've found love. You know, you've went on our different career journeys. And life is always full circle. Life is so great in that way.
It is. It was very
and you
great.
Are out here doing this great work that is so needed for Black students all across the country who we know aren't always afforded the same opportunities as some of our other counterparts.
No, 100%. Thank you so much. Yeah, no, I can't believe we've known each other for so long. She's like my long lost sister. So I've always wanted a sister. So here we go. All right. So let's go over your childhood specifically. From what I know, but let's go over, you know, what your childhood dynamic looked like and what support did you have growing up?
Okay, so for me, I grew up in your typical 2-parent household. My brother, of course, was there for good and bad. And, you know, of course, my parents, I'm, like I said, I'm an immigrant. So, but I was very young when we came to the United States. I was 3 or 4 years old. And to put things into context, I'm going to be 31. So I've spent most of my time living in the United States. And so even though I'm quote unquote would be first generation, I definitely have assimilated very well into the American culture. But when you grow up in a house with immigrant parents who are definitely first generation, there are very strict expectations. Success is very much drilled into us from the very beginning. You don't really fall outside of line. You are definitely like you are expected to set high goals and achieve them. Point blank period. There is no failure. And I would say that my parents were supportive in their own ways, even though I know that for them and their experiences and the things that they had to overcome and the sacrifices that they had to make harden them a bit. And so it really put a lot of pressure on my brother and I to always make sure that we, I guess, didn't disappoint them, and I'll get into this later, disappointment can be subjective. So keep that in mind. But, I was definitely supported by, friends, family, extended family. My parents were definitely heavy in the church. So we were always at church. You had the church family. And I would also say along the way, because I basically always went to private school, for better lack of just transparency, I had some pretty great educators along the way who also supported me. And to be honest with you, none of them were Black, but they all were committed and dedicated to the students that they served. And I had some educators who really took on to me and who pushed me out of my comfort zone a lot of times and, encouraged me to try different things, to push myself and to challenge myself. And I think that holds true. And I can think of two of them that I still, thank God for social media, that still check in on me even now. And they haven't taught me in years. So that's kind of like me in a nutshell, and my background and how I grew up and kind of that support system that I could lean on. Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like you had some pretty amazing educators. I might be thinking of couple of the same ones, since we went to the same schools. Yeah, definitely felt supported as well growing up. You'll find that not everyone who is supportive necessarily looks like you. And if you're struggling to find someone who looks like you, obviously go to InQuireHire.com. But you can also find that there are some really good educators out there that actually care about your well-being and your success. So hang on to them and continue to network and keep in touch with them for sure.
Yep. Like they embody the true essence of being an educator. And they see you as a human first. And that is so important.
Yes, hang on to those for sure. All right, so let's get into your school experiences a little more. Did you feel, you did name the educators that were there and saw you as human first and really, pushed for you to succeed and still keep up with you. But when you're at any point during your school experience, did you face any adversity? And if so, what advice would you give to those who might be going through the same thing?
I had to sit on this question and I was like, oh, okay. I wouldn't say that I experienced adversities per se, but I definitely was challenged at various points during my schooling experience. And whether it was challenged because I was in danger of failing a class, that's real occurrence. Whether I was challenged because of what was happening, in my personal life, or experiencing different health challenges. I have kind of been challenged by different things. And I think for me, it was truly being reflective and having those truth moments with myself and understanding what my limits were and knowing that I had to really put my ego and my pride aside and really ask for help when I needed it. I think that coming from, my mother is a very strong-willed person, like almost to her detriment. And she will struggle and suffer and never ask for help. And part of that kind of rubbed off on me. And I would sit with myself like, why am I suffering in silence? This makes no sense. And so when I would be challenged by things, I had no problem trying to reach out for help. So if I was in danger of failing in class, which happened in undergrad, I almost failed a class. And I definitely reached out to my professor, reached out to the grad assistant, going to office hours, going to tutoring, going to the library, finding those resources that were there to help me. And even though I still ended up dropping that class and retaking it in the summertime, I still extended myself to make sure that I did everything I could to make sure that I was helping myself. Even though I think a lot of times we feel like we don't have those helpers along the way. But when you're not looking, you can't find what you're not looking for, right? And so I would say that that's how while I didn't really face adversities, I was challenged, and I really had to look outside myself. And whether it was resources in people, resources in things, resources in support, whatever that looks like, I had to go looking for it. And because sometimes it's not always going to fall on your lap. You have to extend yourself a little more there sometimes. And it's okay. And it's okay that if one person can't help you, or if one thing can't help you, they know how to connect you to other things. Finding one resource can lead you to the next thing. So keep that in mind. And I know that was like a little roundabout way, but that was how nothing was really adverse for me, but there were some points where I had to really stop and pause and really reset. And that was okay. And that's okay to do as well.
Yeah, I love how you motivated yourself. You motivated yourself to go out and ask questions, because it wasn't something that was instilled in you to do. So that's great that you were able to do that. And I also love how you said if you ask one person and they might not know the answer, they might know someone else who can help you with something, or they might help you with something you didn't even know you needed help with, right? And if that person says no, they're kind of a dead end, right? If they don't seem like they're genuine and trying to help you, or maybe they don't have time, go to the next person and ask questions. I felt the same way. We're speaking of college specifically. I felt like if we needed help, the help was there. You just had to go looking for it, right? I mean, the offices are there for a reason. Mm-hmm. Student support services, career services, they're all there for you. You're paying for it. You're paying for those. You're paying for their salaries. You're paying for their lunches that they have, their conferences that they go to. They're available for you. You're paying for all of those services. So please take advantage of them.
Yes. Sure, yeah. I couldn't agree more. Not everyone's going to be friendly either. And like Ashley was saying, you also have to be assertive. You have to know when people really want to help, and you have to know if they have ulterior motives. And, you learn pretty quickly. Oh, yes. And it's just a part of growing up, and it's a part because you take those skills with you. You will never stop needing to ask for help. Ever, no matter how much of a go-getter you are yourself, no matter how motivated you are, no matter how driven you are, no one is an island. Mm-hmm. And sometimes when you have to just pause and reset and kind of get your bearings in order, things will work out and fall in place. But, understand who your helpers are and understand who your foes are too.
Wise words. I didn't know we were going to get into that. That is so true. If you feel like someone's taking advantage of you the first time,
don't go back.
Don't go back to them. Don't
trust your gut.
Business. Just
trust your gut.
Trust your gut. Yes, thank you. That's through adulthood. That doesn't stop
through adulthood.
Trust your gut. Keep going.
Indeed.
All right. Yeah. So tell me, how did you get into nursing? When I knew you way back when. That's not something that I thought that you would go into nursing, really. How did you get into nursing? Did you know nurses? Talk about your career journey. Was it difficult? Did you go straight through? Yeah, explain it for everyone.
So my mom is a nurse, but that is not who influenced me to become a nurse. I know, right?
What?
I know. I actually thought I was going to be someone's whole doctor. Okay. I had it all planned out. I was going to go to medical school, become a plastic surgeon or OBGYN. Two very
Different fields. Wait, what?
I
Nice.
know, I know. Listen, I was growing up. Things were
Hey, great.
And actually, I did a program at UIC, University of Illinois, Chicago, called the Early Outreach Program. And it was a program that was kind of health sciences heavy, technology. So your STEMs, your engineering, math, career heavy. So I was going to school on Saturday. Okay, that's
the best time to go to school on Saturday. Why wouldn't you want to have an extra day of school?
Saturday. It was like extra school. Okay, I was going to school on Saturday, and they offered the great part was that they offered these shadowing experiences. So I was all set up to shadow, I believe, an OBGYN. However, they got called into an emergency situation, so I ended up shadowing nurses instead. And that's kind of where my whole outlook changed. And your next question deals with like some misconceptions about the field. And so we'll get into that. But that's when my eyes became wide and I actually figured out what nurses did, because all I knew was that my mom who's been a nurse for like over 30 years, she would come home, she was tired, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. It was not fancy to me. But shadowing those nurses really opened my eyes. And that's when I knew, and I believe that was my junior year of high school. And so I started looking into programs where I could essentially matriculate directly into a nursing program. I did not want to go 2 years undecided and then take the test and possibly not be accepted into the College of Nursing. And so that's pretty much how I almost landed at Marquette. And Marquette was actually the last school I applied to, my last choice.
I didn't say this. Whoever's listening, I did not say this.
I'm saying it. And it's only based on location. I was like, what the heck is in Wisconsin? Do black people live in Wisconsin? Right. And I only live in Chicago. But this is how much I really did not know about Wisconsin. That's the only reason why I really did not want to go to Marquette. But looking at the structure of the program, how your nursing courses started first day of your first year of college, I'm like, I'm trying to be done with school in 4 years. So let's get this done. So I went ahead, started the nursing program at Marquette, went straight through, and I graduated with my Bachelor's of Science in Nursing degree. And I started I immediately started working at one of the larger hospitals in Chicago, and I did not like my first job. I did not become a nurse. I was working on an ICU floor, so intensive care unit. And the reality is that 80% of people who are in the ICU, they do not leave. They do not walk out. They leave in a cascade, essentially. And it made me sad. I love working with people. I love working with patients. I love developing goals with patients. I love, reaching goals with patients. And so I knew I had to pivot. So I went ahead, and when I was in nursing school, I loved community health nursing. I love public health nursing. That is like one-on-one collaboration with patients, getting them to challenge themselves, getting them to understand what their limitations are, working with them through some of these limitations. So I went ahead and I started working at some outpatient clinics, some what we call federally qualified health centers, community health centers. And then I decided, after 2 years of doing that, I'm like, I want to go back to school.
Why not?
So I know, right? You end up I got to kind of like a stalemate with my career. So I'm like, what's next? So I decided to go back to school, and me going back to school ended up kind of being a nice surprise because I did not pay for grad school. So keep that in mind. If there is a way for you to avoid paying for grad school, many organizations that are employers have some kind of tuition reimbursement for grad school programs, whether they're paying partial or full tuition. So I ended up transitioning to a organization where, because I was going to school and working for that organization, I attended grad school for 100% free, and I ended up walking out with a doctorate because of it. And so, listen,
did everyone hear that though?
I ended up walking out with a doctorate with a doctorate. And I worked at that organization for 5 years. And so keep that in mind. These resources, like I said, find resources. If you don't go looking, you won't know what's out there for you. Found the resource. And essentially, when I wrapped up grad school, I finished grad school in December 2018. It prepared me for more of a leadership role. And so I pivoted and I started working for the state public health department. And I think I mentioned earlier, while I'm not a nurse in the traditional sense anymore, I still utilize my nursing background because the program that I oversee is a clinical program. It provides breast and cervical cancer screening for those who are underserved. And so we know that breast and cervical cancer screenings, those are clinically driven health initiatives. So I still use my nursing brain, but in a different way, what we call population health. So that's my life. That's my career trajectory in a nutshell. And I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing next. This is not it for me. So this is it for me right now. But
I love that you said that. Some people are like, as soon as I get there, I'm done. I made it. And they're not aware that once you make it, you're also looking for what's next. What else can I do? How else can I be helpful and continue to grow? So I love that you said that. Wow, you started in the ICU. That is a tough first job. How? Oh my goodness.
I didn't last long. I knew
I wouldn't have either. I wouldn't have even made it through the door. As soon as I got my assignment, I would have said, no, thank you. This is not for me. So I'm happy that you actually kind of went through a couple of areas within nursing, because I feel like, kind of like what you said, people think, okay, nursing, I'm in the hospital, I'm giving shots. There are so many areas of nursing where you don't necessarily have to be in the hospital. You can be in a school setting. You can be, at home, right? That's always nice, especially when it comes to work-life balance.
I've been at home there you
go. So I'm happy that you said that for our students. All right. So tell me, what skills do you need to be good in this field? And maybe it's more specific to your area of nursing, but talk about a little bit about that for us.
So I kind of split this up kind of like universal nursing skills, and then more technical nursing skills, because nursing in the traditional sense is a very technical career. You have to know how to use your hands. You have to know how to do certain procedures. But we'll cover that. But, just some universal skills. To be a good nurse, you have to be a critical thinker. You have to be a problem solver. You have to be intuitive. You have to be analytical. You have to be a good multitasker. When you are in that hospital setting or in that clinical setting, you're doing multiple things. You're not just doing one thing at a time. So you have to be very good at staying focused, staying on track, compartmentalizing things, because you can be called into doing something else while you're in the middle of doing something. Keep that in mind. You have to be a great communicator. I cannot stress this enough. You communicate with patients, you communicate with family members and loved ones, you communicate with your colleagues. Nursing is a very collaborative role, and it's very customer service oriented. You think about what good customer service entails, nursing skills mirror that very, very closely. You have to be detail oriented. You have to really focus on some of those really minor details that could be either life altering or life life endangering for folks. You have to be good at time management. You have to be observant. You have to be very collaborative, and you have to be open-minded because you interface with so many different kinds of people. And you have to be a very good listener. I always used to tell people when I work directly with patients, you have to hear what your patients are not telling you. You have to pay attention to their body language. People already, especially Black people, we have had a very violent history with interfacing with the healthcare system. And so people are scared, people are anxious, and sometimes patients are not going to tell you. You ask a patient why they're here today, they're not going to tell you. You have to go digging for that information because there's a level of distrust there. And so, and I think I mentioned that there are also technical nursing skills, right? And so you have to know how to give medications. You have to know how to give injections. You have to know how to start an IV. You have to know how to draw blood. You have to know how to reposition your patients. You have to know how to complete a head-to-toe assessment. And the list goes on and on and on. And there's some things that you learn on the job, right? And so while you're in nursing school, you have all these what we call skills labs, right? And so you learn some of these fundamental technical skills. But when I was working in the ICU, some of the things I learned how to do, there's no way that I would have learned that in nursing school because it came with the job. And of course, some of the more global skills you also develop as you get further along in your career as well. So that's it in a nutshell. There's a lot.
Maybe I should have just asked for one skill. Oh my God. So basically, if you're getting into nursing, you have to be amazing at everything. That's what it sounds like. No, but seriously, you should be able to multitask, communicate.
Yeah.
I love the piece that you gave about just facing maybe someone who doesn't look like you, right? A non-Black nurse. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a whole nother conversation. But yes, there is that level of anxiety there and mistrust for sure. Mm-hmm. And I love what you said about making sure you're paying attention to what the patient is not telling you.
Yep.
Yes, 100%. That's amazing. Look at her. Well, that's why you are where you are right now. It sounds like you're an amazing nurse. I love the journey that you took. You have so much experience because of the journey that you took. But I know you kind of want to get into that maybe a little bit later. So I won't spoil it for you guys. What's one misconception about the nursing field?
I think you already
just one.
I know. You actually touched on it, Ashley. The fact that people think that nursing is linear. They think that there is only one type of way to be a nurse, and there's so many options. Like, nurses work in corporate settings. You have nurses who are CEOs. They are chief nursing officers, chief operating officers, executive directors. You have those nurse executives. You have nurses who work for the government. I work for the government. And then you have nurses who work in the legal field. You have nurses who work with insurance companies. You have nurses that work in school settings, nurses who do Botox injections, fillers. We know beauty is like a huge industry. There are many nurses saturated in the beauty industry. You have nurses who write scripts for some of your favorite shows. Grey's Anatomy, Chicago Med, you have nurses. Of course, you have nursing educators. We need nurses who will teach the generation coming behind. And so there's so many opportunities. And I think that while we need those nurses, those traditional nurses who work by the bedside, who take care of those patients, nurses hold the knowledge key. And this is another misconception. I know you only asked for one. People think that physicians or doctors know everything. If you pay attention, nurses are the ones. And this is obviously biased. Nurses know everything.
I say nothing. I have friends that are doctors, friends that are nurses, and I hear this both ways. So I'm just going to be quiet.
I'm just going to tell y'all, nurses are the ones who, when you strip away all of the layers. You think about the nursing in the traditional sense, the bedside nurse. Nurses spend the most time with patients. Nurses, there's a reason why when you work with patients, you work 8-hour shifts or you work 12-hour shifts. Who's monitoring the patients? The nurses are. We're there. We know everything. But I'm just saying it's biased. But But the takeaway here is that there are so many options in nursing. Please do not ever think that the only type of nurses that there are those who work directly with patients. If you can think of a field, there's probably a nurse there somewhere.
That's really good, actually. If you can think of a field, there's probably a nurse somewhere, which is why nurses are always in demand. If you're thinking about going into nursing, just a little bit, you will always have a job.
Always have a job.
A very good job, a very good paying job. They're out there.
You will always have a job.
And
obviously, COVID has impacted nursing to a certain degree, depending on what you were doing. But I have many friends who took travel nursing positions and went to go assist with COVID. And I hate to say it, but it was lucrative for them, in the sense that because it is a hazardous condition to be in and a hazardous circumstance to be in, they were offering top dollar to have nurses really take some 12-week contracts out. So even if some nurses were furloughed from their regular job, they were highly in demand to deal with COVID. And even then, there was still a shortage.
There was. I saw that. I'm like, well,
how?
How? Aren't there nurses everywhere? But hey, like she mentioned, you can get contracted to, be a travel nurse and go wherever there's need. There are so many areas for nurses.
Nursing and nurses are always in demand.
Yes, for sure.
They've been talking about the nursing shortage for like the last 25 years, and there's never seems to be like enough nurses.
That's insane. Keep that in mind. All right, so walk through a typical day for you. She mentioned that she is home, and which sounds very nice. Again, work-life balance, that's always what I'm thinking about. But that sounds really nice to be home and be able to put your skills and your knowledge to work. So tell us a little bit about your typical day.
I wouldn't say I have a typical day per se. Because my job now is very administrative in nature. I would say that my day very much so revolves around my calendar, right? My work calendar is like my work Bible, essentially. And so my days could consist of back-to-back meetings, whether I'm meeting with my staff, I'm meeting with internal, external partners, stakeholders. I might be drafting and completing reports for CDC because that's one of our funders. I'm reviewing important documents. I have to review things such as budgets. Or I could be like I oversee a team of 6, 7. And they're all working.
I'm sorry. I had to. I'm sorry. It's a horrible time for a joke.
I know.
Okay, it's someone get fired. No, I'm joking. Go ahead.
They're all working on various projects, and sometimes they need me to chime in and help them out. And we have to brainstorm ideas, or I have to sign off on something. My days, they just vary, and so I really don't say I have a typical day. Sometimes I have downtime, and so my downtime is spent again because I work with a clinical grant. There might be some new clinical guidelines that came out, so I need to be doing research on that. I need to make sure that I'm up to date on my knowledge on the different treatment modalities and mechanisms and things of that nature. So my days vary, but I will say consistently there are meetings and there are definitely deadlines that have to be met. And I have to either, if I have to give a presentation or I have to complete a report, there are things that just are routine that just kind of weave through my day.
So your schedule is everywhere. That
My schedule is
sounds
everywhere. My schedule is
intense.
everywhere. It really depends on whatever the priority is at the
Mm-hmm.
time, honestly.
All right, multi-talented, and she multitasks. So while she's home and it seems like she's relaxing, she's not relaxing at
Oh
all.
no, I like you all have, technology fatigue. I am on meetings a lot, being on Zoom, being on WebEx, being on Teams, whatever meeting platform I have used. Okay. Google Meets, Google Hangouts, whatever. I have used all of them at this point in time.
I love how before all of COVID, it was like, where are we meeting? Like in person. Now it's like,
I
where are we meeting?
know.
Like, which platform are we
Which
using?
platform
That's
are we using for
hilarious.
this meeting? And
Yep.
trust me, we talk about what's the phrase? What was the phrase of the year for 2020? You're on mute. Yep.
Hey, if you don't need to have your mic on.
No, listen. And sometimes like I would be talking and they're like, you might be on mute. And I'm like, yep, I sure was.
All of that knowledge wasted, not got to repeat it. Come on.
Listen. I feel y'all on the technology fatigue. It
It's a
has been a
lot.
blessing to work from home, obviously being safe, but the truth of the matter is it's been exhausting. We no longer have those boundaries for school, for work. Your parents are tired, you're tired, we're all on top of each other.
Everybody's tired.
Everyone's tired. I get it. I am there, but hang in there.
Yes, we'll get through it for sure.
We'll get through it.
All right. So I love this question so much. This question is something that we just added. I love how people are talking about where they are now. It's so good to see people from summer camp
to Boys and Girls Club. Yep.
Boys and Girls Club to where we are now, right? And you may look at someone and think, man, they're successful, but you might be on a different path. You might not. This might just be a pit stop, right? You're not even where you're at yet. And so it just helped us develop this question, like, I guess, how would you define success? And do you feel that you're at your plateau, if you will, if you've made it?
Okay.
Loaded question. No question.
I love the question. And I had to really think about it. I'm like, what? And so in my notes here, I actually put like growing up, success was defined by results, and your accomplishments. It was very tangible, meaning that, you got that degree, you bought that new car, you bought your first home, right? And however, as I've come into my own, develop my own perspective, I see success, I measure success through the lens of the journey, right? And so the journey along the way may entail learning a new skill, acquiring new knowledge, meeting new people, expanding your network, finding new resources. And for many, the idea of success is not an overnight thing. And so all these different little nuggets that you acquired along the way, you're going to have to reuse them constantly. And so, no, do I think that I have reached or I've plateaued? By no means. At the beginning of this, I said I'm still evolving. And so for now, I'm, yes, I have my doctorate degree. Okay. But what can I do with that? How can I expand on that? And so I think that as I am moving towards like my future aspirations, I should say, it's all about using the different things that I've acquired along the way of my journey to keep building. It doesn't stop. Unfortunately, we don't live in a society unless we are millionaires or billionaires, which, I am not.
Not yet.
Not yet. Let's claim it. Let's manifest it.
Hey.
We have to keep I hate to say running the rat race, but we do. And we have to find ways to keep transforming, and we have to find ways to keep evolving. We have to find ways to keep being better. And also, and I think I alluded to this, success can also be rooted in failure. I have learned that sometimes when I've had to reset, it's taken me further than when I was being stubborn and saying, no, this is the only way I can go. No, sometimes God in the universe will make you fail because there's a bigger plan for you. But when you're in an environment where you're taught that failure is not an option, you're anxious about it and you're scared to fail. But sometimes you need to fail in order to find out that something's not for you and that you're going to have to pivot.
That's in multiple areas in life, right?
That's
you can fail, you can go bankrupt, fail marriage in the future. Hey, there's a lesson to be learned and you will grow from it.
Yes. And so you think about that journey and all those nuggets that you learn, that you acquire and you learn along the way to those accomplishments. Don't get me wrong, those accomplishments and those tangible things are definitely still part of success. But I feel that sometimes we don't really take in what we learned along the way. And because those are the things that we'll keep recycling and using to keep building, which that's how I define success. So.
Wow. I love that you have a bit of like failure in there. That's important in your journey to success. Believe in that 1000%. You have to fail. You will fail.
You will fail.
It's going to be okay.
It's gonna be
I forgot what age it was. It was somewhere in my 20s when I felt that I failed. I started, one, laughing at it. What are you going to do? I mean, and then two, I knew that there was a different plan. I had to shift. I had to pivot, like you said, in some way. But 3, to not let what others felt and how they saw your failure as an end all, right? At some point, I'm like, I know my calling. I know why I feel that I was here for a certain reason.
Yep.
Yes, but this is just on my path to whatever great thing I'm supposed
whatever great things are coming. Yeah, So, but 100%. I feel again, Black household, whether or not you are from a Black immigrant household or just a traditional Black American household.
I got both sides, girl.
Failure, they act like failure. And I get
it's over. It's over.
Trauma. It's trauma.
That's right.
But failure is part of the journey. We will fail in some way. And I think that is once we learn to embrace it, as long as it does not crush you, as long as you can be resilient from it, because that's also the key. You have to find ways to cope and be resilient. You can't be just buried by your failure. You have to know that you will never feel as low as you felt in that moment, and the only direction you can literally go is up.
Wise words. You need to write a book or something. Over here talking about she's not a millionaire yet. Wait, you guys, we're gonna have to catch back up with her. I'm gonna give you about 3 years.
I receive all of that. I manifest it. I receive it. Let's go.
Hey, we're claiming it. All right. So what advice would you give? I feel like you've talked about this a few times, but just to sum it up one more time for us, what advice would you give to your childhood self or other Black students?
Ooh, I put 2 things here. I noted 2 things.
She always has to put more than one thing. That must be like some advice there. When someone asks you for one thing, you better give them more than one.
Yeah, you gotta have 10 ready. I think my first little nugget here is don't be afraid to break outside of your norm. Even if it means disrupting the image that your parents or your loved ones have for you. Your life belongs to you. Don't get me wrong, our parents, they support us, they sacrifice on our behalf. However, we are not indebted to them. You have to figure out what trajectory your life is going to go on and work towards that. And if that means that you disappoint your parents, and remember what I said, or your loved ones, disappointment is subjective. It might be disappointing to them, but it might just be what you need to be doing. So please keep that in mind. You have a purpose and you have to align with that purpose. And sometimes it goes against the grain. And then also, in the same breath, know your limits, but don't limit yourself because you're afraid of stepping outside of your comfort zone. Those are two different things. Knowing when something is just not your calling, knowing when something is just not in your wheelhouse is different from not attempting something because of self-doubt and fear. And that's it.
Waiting for that book. I am waiting for that book. All right. Let's move into the fun questions. I love this segment. We get some funny questions here, answers here. All right. So if you had to name the number one rite of passage that you think all college students should go through, what would it be? Now, wait, let me give a disclaimer because we've had some really corporate answers here. I'm like, that's not what I wanted you to say. I mean, like going broke, getting locked out, like something funny, like number one rite of passage. What is it?
It's so funny. I had two. So you just named the first one, the broke one. We all got to be broke. I mean, we all got to be broke. Like ramen noodles, cup noodles, broke.
It has to hurt.
Like, you know how people love avocado toast now? Mm-hmm. I'm like, I was eating avocado toast
for survival. You're over here trying to be healthy.
with a fried egg on top, okay?
Oh.
And then you got to pull that all-nighter. Okay, you will procrastinate your way. You will think you have some time. You got to pull that all-nighter because I have been burning the midnight candle to type a 10-page paper that's due at 11:59 Central Standard Time. And it was 10:15 Central Standard Time, and I was on page 5. Okay, so...
Oh,
but guess what, though? I still got an A on that paper.
Whoop, there you go. I feel like those are the best papers. I am not promoting procrastination by any means, but I feel like those are the best papers.
Listen, those are the best. You will sit
that's when you're really using that critical thinking.
That critical thinking. Listen, that problem solving. You will find a way when you only got an hour and a half to finish something. You will find a way.
That's a life lesson. Yes. Okay. All right. We're not promoting
it.
All right.
No.
And then if you had to give up one thing from this list, I saw this on Twitter the other day. These are the options: bread, rice, pasta, or potatoes. That's like your foundation. If you had to give up one of those.
Carbohydrate foundation.
Yes. As I'm talking to the nurse, she's probably like, no. But if you had to give up one of those, which one would it be?
I'm going to tell y'all, for breakfast this morning, I had potatoes. So definitely can't give up potatoes. Breakfast is my favorite meal. So, and it sure is. And I realized that I will take like a hash or like a side of potatoes over like a side of pancakes or something. So I can't give up potatoes. I can't give up pasta because it's an easy meal.
Hey, that ramen.
That's an easy universal meal. Like I can't give that up. I am an immigrant. I can't give up no rice. Okay, like
thank you.
I can't.
Rice with every meal.
Rice permeates like almost every meal.
It's always rice.
Let me tell you something. Like cauliflower rice, no, thank you.
No,
garbage. I don't care how you season it. I don't care how you cook it. It's not the same. And so I live by process elimination. I can only give up bread. And I realized this actually being home for the past year. I either go on a bread binge where I'm eating bread almost every day, or I can go weeks and I'm like, nah, I'm good on bread. So bread is almost that one thing I could give up. Like I either eat or I don't. There's no median for me when it comes to bread.
So if we catch you during one of those weeks when you're like, I don't eat bread, then you're good. That was easy for you.
It was easy. But those other 3 starches and carbohydrates.
Those are staples. I can't get rid of those.
Those are my road dogs. You know, I'm probably gonna eat rice tonight. I'm gonna be real honest with y'all. Like, I'm probably gonna eat rice tonight with dinner, whether I'm either gonna make something with rice or I'm gonna end up ordering Mexican food, which you always have to have rice with Mexican food, at least in my opinion. So
just like now you just have to have rice with everything.
I just gotta have rice with every meal.
Any kind of food. Pancakes.
Listen, rice is like the building blocks of like so many cultural foods, right? Whether you are African, whether you are Asian, whether you are of Spanish, Latinx descent, we got rice across many cultures.
We're in this African and Jamaican household. We always got rice.
Listen, you don't get Caribbeans, like, it ain't nothing but rice. Rice is the main dish.
Yes, rice comes first. Rice comes first. Staple. Then you put the rest of the stuff. No one's even thinking about the rest. Just make sure you have your rice first.
Period. People don't understand. And, but everything in moderation, right? Everything in moderation.
Yes. Listen to the nurse. Everything in moderation.
We don't eat rice every day. Okay. I'm reminding
y'all don't eat rice every day. I'm gonna keep eating my rice every day. It's just there. I'm sorry.
You eat. It's portion control in moderation.
Pre-COVID. All right. And on that note, thank you so much, Tomi, for being here, for chatting with us, for bringing us on your journey to you found success, but you're still going, you're still evolving. And we love that. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for letting me share my story. I told Ashley before we started, I'm like, you chose me? Like, little old me? What am I doing? And she's like, girl, you are doing it.
You are killing it out here. Yes, we need to have you on here. We need to hear your voice.
I wish all of you luck and success. It's, the reality is that being Black in this country, we have to work harder and we have to work smarter. But know that you will accomplish whatever it is you have laid out for yourself and whatever you set your mind to. So again, I wish you all success. I wish you all Godspeed, because life is delicate. And, last year and even some of this year as well, we really learned that life is delicate. So please live your life to the fullest and live your life most importantly for yourself.
All right. When she comes out with that book, we'll invite her back. Thank you so much, Tomi. All right, guys. Until next time. Until next time, everyone. We'll see you later. Bye.